When a billionaire father saw a humble waitress comforting his disabled son, he had no idea that moment would change all their lives forever. Ethan Parker had always lived a life that most people could only dream of. He had money, influence, and power. His business empire spanned continents, and his name was known in boardrooms across the world. But despite all his wealth, there was one part of his life that no amount of money could fix: his son, Noah. Noah was 7 years old, bright, gentle, and full of curiosity about the world, but he was born with a disability that made simple tasks difficult. Walking, running, even playing like other children required assistance. And most days, Noah needed his father's constant attention and support. Ethan tried his best, but his life as a billionaire meant he was often busy, traveling or managing deals, leaving Noah with tutors, nurses, and assistants. It was a lonely life for both of them, and even though Ethan provided everything money could buy, he knew he couldn't replace the simple warmth and attention that Noah deserved. One rainy morning, Ethan decided to do something different. He didn't want Noah to feel trapped at home again, staring out the window as the rain drizzled down, wishing for a world he couldn't fully explore. He thought of a small diner on the edge of the city, a place that had remained untouched by luxury or high society. It was humble, unassuming, and ordinary, exactly what Noah needed. Ethan didn't tell anyone. This was just a father trying to bring a little happiness into his son's life. Away from the walls of their grand mansion and the endless routines of caretakers as they arrived at the diner. The warm smell of coffee and freshly cooked breakfast welcomed them. The rain had slowed to a gentle drizzle, and the windows were fogged, giving the place a cozy, comforting atmosphere. Ethan parked the car and helped Noah out, carefully lifting him from his wheelchair with the practiced precision that came from years of routine. Noah's eyes widened as he looked around, fascinated by the bright colors, the old posters on the walls, and the simple wooden booths. He wasn't used to this kind of place. Most of the time, he stayed at home or in medical offices, and these outings were rare and carefully planned. For once, it felt normal. It felt like just a simple morning in the world. And Noah's small smile told Ethan that he had made the right choice. The diner was quiet except for a few locals, enjoying their breakfast and chatting softly. Behind the counter, a young waitress named Lily moved gracefully, balancing plates and taking orders with a warm smile. Lily wasn't rich, and she didn't have fancy dreams of fame or luxury. She worked long hours, often covering for coworkers, taking extra shifts to support her sick mother at home. Despite her exhaustion, she always carried herself with kindness, her laughter soft but infectious. Lily had a special way of noticing things that others often overlooked: the quiet struggles, the little gestures of sadness, and the unspoken emotions in people's eyes. When Lily spotted Noah in his wheelchair, she paused for a moment. She saw his small hands gripping the edge of the table, the nervous fidgeting, and the subtle sadness in his eyes. Most people would have ignored it or assumed it was just a child acting shy. But Lily felt a tug in her heart. She had a natural instinct for empathy, and even before speaking to him, she understood that this little boy needed more than just food. He needed someone to see him, to acknowledge him, to make him feel safe. Ethan, as usual, was preoccupied. His phone buzzed constantly, messages from his assistants and business partners appearing one after another. He barely noticed Noah as he wheeled him to the booth. This had been their routine for months, Ethan providing the logistics, the planning, the external support, while someone else handled the emotional needs that he was too busy to address. But this morning felt different. There was a tension in Ethan's chest, quiet awareness that something needed to change, and he could feel it, even if he didn't yet understand it. Noah looked around the diner nervously. He had always been cautious in new places, sensitive to the glances of strangers, worried that people would stare at him or his wheelchair. But there was something about Lily's presence that made him feel safe. She didn't rush him. She didn't make him feel different, and she smiled in a way that reached his heart. It was a smile full of patience, understanding, and genuine care, the kind of smile that made children trust adults instantly as Ethan ordered their breakfast. Noah's curiosity began to get the better of him. He leaned slightly forward in his wheelchair to look around the diner, his small hands tapping gently on the table. That's when it happened. He accidentally knocked over his cup of juice. The bright liquid spilled across the table and dripped to the floor. Noah's face scrunched up, tears threatening to fall, not because of the mess, but because he felt embarrassed. Most of the time, these little accidents drew impatient sighs or quick corrections from the adults around him. But today, something unexpected happened. Lily was already at his side before Ethan could even react. She crouched down to his level, her eyes gentle and calm. "It's okay," she said softly, grabbing a napkin and cleaning the spill. "Accidents happen. Let's fix it together." Her voice was like a soft melody to Noah, easing the tension in his small body. She made funny shapes out of the napkins, twisting them into animals and little hats, and even whispered silly stories about them. Noah couldn't help but giggle, a sound so rare that Ethan felt a lump in his throat. For the first time in weeks, he saw his son genuinely happy. Completely absorbed in a moment of joy, Ethan watched from a distance, feeling something stir inside him. He had built empires, negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, and faced challenges that would crush most people. But nothing in his life had prepared him for the simple, powerful sight of his son smiling because of someone else's kindness. He realized that no wealth, no status, no grand gesture could replace the warmth and care that Lily had shown in just a few minutes. She had done what he could not, and in that realization, a mixture of admiration and humility washed over him. The morning continued with quiet laughter, soft conversations, and the comforting aroma of breakfast. Noah kept glancing at Lily, his face lighting up every time she came by, and Ethan felt a shift in the atmosphere that he couldn't quite explain. For the first time, the diner didn't feel like a small, ordinary place. It felt like a space where healing could happen, where a small act of kindness could bridge the gap between loneliness and happiness. As they prepared to leave, Ethan made a mental note to remember this morning. It wasn't the food, the decor, or the weather that made it special. It was Lily's heart. She had unknowingly reached through the walls he had built around his son and touched something precious. That morning, Ethan realized that sometimes the most ordinary people could have the most extraordinary impact. And in that quiet diner, while the rain continued to fall outside, a small miracle had quietly begun. A father seeing his son's happiness, a son experiencing genuine joy, and a waitress unknowingly stepping into a life-changing role. From that day forward, Ethan promised himself to notice more, to pay attention to the small moments, and to value the people who brought real warmth into their lives. He didn't know yet how far this morning would go, but he knew that something extraordinary had started in the simplest way possible, with a smile, a napkin, and a little kindness. Noah's laughter continued to echo softly in the small diner as Lily crouched beside him, her gentle hands arranging the spilled napkins into playful shapes. She didn't hurry, didn't act impatient, and didn't treat him like he was fragile. Instead, she spoke to him as if he were just another child who deserved attention, care, and a little fun. "Look," she said, twisting a napkin into the shape of a rabbit. "This is Mr. Bunny. He's looking for a friend today. Would you help him?" Noah's eyes sparkled. He reached out, touching the soft folds of the napkin, and a small giggle escaped him. For a child who often struggled with feeling accepted, this simple interaction felt magical. Ethan Parker, sitting across the table with his phone finally set aside, watched silently. He had seen tutors, therapists, and assistants try to engage Noah in similar ways, yet none had managed to break through the wall of shyness and hesitation his son had built over the years. This small waitress, someone he barely knew, was doing what his entire network of professionals couldn't. She was making his son smile, laugh, and feel alive. Ethan felt a strange mixture of awe and humility. He realized that the impact of kindness wasn't something money could buy, and he felt a stirring of gratitude he wasn't used to expressing. Lily continued talking to Noah, her voice calm and melodic, telling short, imaginative stories about the napkin animals. She encouraged him to use his imagination, to play, and to share his own ideas. Noah began to respond with shy but eager suggestions, laughing as he made up tiny adventures for Mr. Bunny and his napkin friends. He even started to ask questions, something he rarely did outside the safety of their home. His curiosity had been buried under layers of uncertainty and the challenges his disability brought. But Lily's patience and warmth coaxed it out gently. What fascinated Ethan the most was that Noah didn't just respond to Lily's attention. He was thriving under it. His hands moved more confidently, his face lit up with genuine expression, and his body language softened. He leaned forward slightly, engaging with the world around him rather than shrinking from it. For Ethan, who had spent countless hours worrying about medical charts, therapies, and schedules, this was a revelation. He realized that beyond physical care, what Noah truly needed was emotional connection. Someone who could meet him where he was and make him feel safe and valued. Lily didn't notice Ethan watching. She was completely focused on Noah, talking to him as though he were the only person in the diner. She adjusted his chair slightly so he could see the napkin animals more clearly and encouraged him to laugh, to speak, to enjoy the moment. "You're doing a great job, Noah," she said warmly. "Mr. Bunny is so proud of you." Noah beamed. The small burst of confidence, the pride in accomplishing something as simple as shaping a napkin correctly, filled him with joy. He hadn't felt this way in months, and Ethan's heart ached with the realization of how much his son had been missing these little experiences. The other customers in the diner noticed too. A few smiled softly, observing the tender interaction between the waitress and the boy. It was quiet, unassuming, but powerful. There was no fanfare, no grand gestures, just the authenticity of two people connecting. Ethan felt a pang of envy. He had built a life surrounded by people who were often polite but distant, competent but emotionally unavailable. Here was someone whose actions spoke louder than words. His presence alone could make a difference. After a few minutes, Lily encouraged Noah to try something on his own. She placed a fresh napkin in his hands and said, "Now, let's see what you can create. Mr. Bunny will help you if you get stuck." Noah hesitated at first, his small hands unsure. But then, guided by Lily's calm encouragement, he began folding the napkin, attempting to mimic the shapes she had made. It wasn't perfect, but it was his own creation. He looked up proudly, expecting Lily's reaction, and she clapped gently. "That's amazing, Noah. You did it all by yourself." The pride in her voice made Noah's smile widen even further. For a moment, all the challenges and frustrations of his life seemed distant. Ethan couldn't look away. He felt a lump in his throat as he watched his son experience something so ordinary yet so extraordinary, the sense of accomplishment, the joy of being recognized, and the simple happiness of playful interaction. It was a reminder that life's true treasures were not found in boardrooms or bank accounts, but in moments of genuine human connection. Lily continued to engage Noah while subtly observing him, noticing small details about his behavior, what made him laugh, and what seemed to make him nervous. She adjusted her approach based on his reactions, always gentle, never forceful. She didn't have a formal plan or a strategy. She simply followed her instincts, and those instincts told her how to reach him. Ethan was silently amazed. He had spent thousands on experts who relied on theories and charts. Yet here was someone who intuitively knew how to touch his son's heart. Noah's laughter grew louder, filling the small diner with a warmth that even the rain outside couldn't match. He began to ask questions, exploring the imaginative world Lily had created with him. "What does Mr. Bunny eat?" he asked, eyes wide with curiosity. Lily answered with a story about magical vegetables that gave Mr. Bunny the power to hop higher than ever before. Noah giggled uncontrollably, clearly delighted. The simple joy in his expression made Ethan realize that these moments, tiny, unplanned, and heartfelt, were worth more than anything he could buy. Ethan finally spoke to Lily, breaking the silence. "Thank you," he said quietly, not knowing what else to say. "I don't know how to do this." Lily looked up, smiling gently. "You're doing just fine," she said. Noah just needed someone to pay attention to him, to see him for who he is. Ethan nodded slowly, understanding for the first time that attention and love were not things that money could purchase. They were gifts, freely given, and sometimes the simplest acts had the greatest impact. As breakfast continued, Noah became more animated, talking about the napkin animals, inventing stories. and even reaching out to touch some of the diner decorations. Exploring with curiosity instead of hesitation. Ethan watched, a quiet pride swelling in his chest, but also a newfound humility. He realized that no amount of wealth, luxury, or privilege could replace the value of human connection, empathy, and kindness. By the time they were ready to leave, Noah clung to Lily's hand for a moment, waving goodbye with a big smile. Lily smiled back, gently squeezing his hand, and whispered, "See you next time, Noah." Ethan noticed the small spark of happiness in his son's eyes, a spark that had been dimmed for too long. As they walked out into the rainy morning, Ethan felt a shift inside him. Something had changed, something subtle but powerful. He didn't yet know how far this change would go, but he knew that Lily had done something extraordinary in the simplest way possible. She had given his son a reason to smile. For Ethan, the morning was a revelation. He had always believed that his wealth could solve any problem, but here was a living proof that the heart could not be bought. Lily's gentle touch, her patience, and her kindness had opened a door in Noah's world and in his own. The rainy day no longer felt gloomy. It felt like the beginning of something new, something hopeful. He realized that this small diner, this simple waitress, and this ordinary morning had created a memory that would stay with him and Noah forever. Ethan Parker couldn't stop thinking about that morning at the diner. The image of Noah laughing, completely relaxed and happy, replayed in his mind again and again. He had always believed that his wealth and status could solve any problem, but now he realized that some things, the most important things, couldn't be bought. Happiness, trust, and emotional connection were gifts that came from the heart. And in a single morning, a young waitress named Lily had given his son exactly that. A few days later, Ethan decided he needed to speak with Lily. He didn't want to impose or make her feel uncomfortable, but he knew he owed her gratitude. He returned to the diner, a little out of his usual world. Normally, Ethan was surrounded by assistants, bodyguards, and staff who smoothed every interaction and ensured he was never inconvenienced. But today, he wanted to connect directly, simply, and honestly. He parked his car outside, took a deep breath, and walked in, trying to appear casual. Though he felt an unfamiliar nervousness, Lily spotted him immediately. She was used to seeing many different faces in the diner each day, but there was something about him that stood out. A quiet intensity, a weight behind his eyes, and, most importantly, the small, gentle boy in his care wheeled beside him. Lily smiled, setting down the plates she was carrying, and approached them. Noah's eyes lit up the moment he saw her. "Miss Lily," he shouted excitedly. He reached out for her hand, and she crouched to meet him at eye level. Returning his enthusiasm with a warm, genuine smile, Ethan watched quietly as they interacted. There was no awkwardness, no formality, just a pure, unfiltered connection between the two. Lily's presence seemed to make everything feel lighter, as though the air itself carried comfort and ease. Ethan realized he had never seen Noah like this before, so open, so expressive, so completely himself. For the first time in a long while, he felt a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, his son could experience a sense of normal childhood joy. Despite the challenges of his disability, finally, after Noah had settled into his excitement, Ethan spoke. I wanted to thank you," he said, his voice a little stiff. He wasn't used to expressing gratitude directly, especially to someone who worked in a humble diner. "I don't know how to do this. I just wanted to tell you that what you did for Noah, it means a lot." Lily blinked, slightly surprised. She had been used to polite thanks, maybe a tip, but not this intensity. "It's nothing," she said softly, shaking her head. "I just wanted him to feel happy. That's all." Ethan frowned slightly, unsure how to respond. He had grown up in a world where nothing was ever nothing. Everything had a price, a purpose, or a strategy. And yet here was someone who gave without expecting anything in return. The realization hit him hard. Kindness in its purest form was rare, and he had just witnessed it firsthand. He felt a mix of admiration, humility, and a strange longing. In that moment, he wanted to understand more about Lily, who she was. What motivated her, and why she cared so deeply about a child she barely knew. They spoke for a few more minutes, Ethan cautiously asking questions, Lily responding with gentle honesty. She told him that she worked long hours to support her sick mother, that she loved helping children whenever she could, and that she believed every child deserved someone to notice them, to make them feel safe. She didn't mention money or recognition. It simply wasn't part of her mindset. Ethan listened carefully, absorbing every word. He realized that in this ordinary young woman, he had found a rare quality, a heart that could bring light to places where money and power could not reach. Meanwhile, Noah clung to Lily's side, asking her questions, laughing at her stories, and showing a level of comfort that made Ethan ache with gratitude. He had never seen such trust in his son's eyes for someone outside of their immediate family. Every giggle, every word, every little gesture was a revelation. Ethan knew that this bond, however brief it had seemed in that moment, had a profound impact on Noah. It was the kind of interaction that could shape a child's confidence and emotional well-being in ways no therapy session ever could. Ethan, feeling a sudden surge of courage, decided to invite Lily to a more personal setting, something he never would have considered before. Noah's birthday's coming up, he said cautiously. It's not a big party, but I think it would mean a lot if you could come. Lily's eyes widened slightly, a mix of surprise and hesitation. I don't know, she began. I'm just a waitress. I'm not used to that kind of thing. Ethan smiled gently. I don't want anything fancy. Just you and Noah. That's all. The decision weighed on Lily. She had never been invited into the personal life of a wealthy stranger, and the idea intimidated her. But then she looked at Noah's hopeful face, his small hand reaching toward her, and she realized she couldn't say no. This was bigger than fear or uncertainty. It was about a child who had found happiness in her presence, a rare and precious trust that deserved to be honored. With a soft nod, she agreed, trying to hide her nervous excitement. In the days leading up to the birthday, Ethan found himself thinking constantly about Lily. He realized that he had been too focused on schedules, obligations, and outcomes to notice the simple acts that truly mattered. Her presence had reminded him that happiness wasn't something you could buy or plan. It was something you nurtured through attention, care, and small gestures. He also realized that the introduction of someone like Lily into their lives could change more than just Noah's mood. It could reshape the family dynamic, bringing warmth and emotional balance that had been missing for years. When the day of the birthday arrived, Ethan prepared a modest celebration. He chose a quiet part of their mansion, decorated simply with balloons and a few of Noah's favorite toys. It wasn't extravagant, but it was personal. Lily arrived cautiously stepping into the unfamiliar world of wealth and luxury. And yet she remained herself kind, gentle, and unassuming. Noah ran to her immediately, grabbing her hand, and Ethan watched, amazed at how seamlessly she fit into their lives. Despite the differences in background and circumstance throughout the party, Lily remained focused on Noah, engaging him with stories, games, and gentle guidance. She didn't let the opulence or unfamiliar surroundings distract her. Instead, she created a space where Noah could truly be himself, laugh freely, and explore without fear. The ease with which she connected with him made Ethan realize that her influence was far deeper than he had imagined. She had brought something intangible into their lives: trust, comfort, and joy. By the end of the day, Ethan found himself reflecting on the past few weeks. The small moments at the diner, the laughter, the trust, and the gentle attention had all led to this point. He understood that sometimes the smallest gestures could have the most profound impact. A simple act of kindness, given without expectation, had created ripples that extended far beyond what anyone could predict. Ethan had been reminded that even in a life filled with wealth and power, the human heart remained the most powerful force of all. In that moment, Ethan made a silent promise to himself. He would do everything he could to nurture this connection, to support the woman who had touched his son's heart, and to ensure that Noah had the love and guidance he deserved. It wasn't about money, status, or appearances. It was about care, empathy, and the rare, beautiful moments when people truly see one another. And for Ethan, Noah, and Lily, this was just the beginning of a story that would change all their lives forever. The day Ethan decided to formally invite Lily into their lives was one he would never forget. He had spent the past few weeks reflecting on what he had witnessed at the diner and the small yet profound impact Lily had on Noah. Ethan realized that he couldn't rely on money or status to provide his son with the care and emotional connection he needed. What Noah needed was someone with a genuine heart, patience, and the ability to see him as a child first, not as a person defined by his disability. Lily had done that in ways that no tutor, therapist, or professional could. Ethan returned to the diner on a quiet afternoon. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening and wet under the soft sunlight. Lily was arranging dishes and taking orders with her usual care. Unaware of the internal conflict and anticipation Ethan felt, he had no bodyguards, no assistants, just himself, a billionaire who had never entered a diner without a plan or purpose. Today, however, he had only one goal: to show genuine gratitude and to invite Lily to become part of Noah's life in a way that could truly help him. As Ethan approached, Lily looked up, surprised but smiling warmly. She had seen him once before, and now she could sense the quiet seriousness in his demeanor. Noah, seated in his wheelchair beside Ethan, immediately perked up. "Miss Lily," he exclaimed, waving his small hand. He reached out to her instinctively, as though he knew she was about to change everything. Lily bent down and gently squeezed his hand, whispering, "Hi, Noah, I missed you." The joy in Noah's face made Ethan's chest tighten. Every laugh, every sparkle in his son's eyes was a reminder of the quiet magic she had brought into their lives. Ethan spoke carefully, trying to find the right words. "Lily, I wanted to thank you properly," he began. "The way you cared for Noah. It meant more than you can imagine. You've done something no one else has been able to do. You've made him truly happy." Lily's cheeks flushed slightly. She was not used to receiving such heartfelt praise. She shrugged gently and said, I love helping children. Noah is special, and I wanted him to feel safe and happy." Ethan nodded, absorbing her words. Her humility, her sincerity, and her focus on the child rather than on him or his wealth struck him deeply. In that moment, he realized that she wasn't someone who could be bought or influenced. She was genuine, authentic, and rare. It was that authenticity that had touched Noah so profoundly, and Ethan knew he wanted to invite her further into their lives. But he had to do it delicately. "I know this might sound strange," Ethan said, "but Noah's birthday is coming up. It's not a big event, just something small for him and I. I would be honored if you could come." Lily blinked, surprised by the invitation. I don't know," she said softly, hesitating. "I'm just a waitress. I'm not used to that kind of thing." Ethan smiled gently. "I don't want anything fancy. Just you and Noah. He really looks forward to seeing you. It would mean the world to him. And to me as well." For a moment, Lily considered her own life. She worked long hours at the diner, often barely able to care for her sick mother, and this invitation was entirely outside her comfort zone. Yet when she looked at Noah's expectant face, she felt a pull in her heart she could not ignore. He had found joy, trust, and friendship in her presence, and now he needed her to continue being there. With a quiet breath, she nodded. "Okay, I'll come." Ethan felt a rush of relief and gratitude. He had expected hesitation, perhaps even a polite refusal. But her agreement marked the beginning of something extraordinary. He realized that sometimes life's most profound connections are forged through small, courageous decisions. Lily's presence at the birthday would not just bring joy to Noah. It would allow Ethan to see his son thrive in ways he had not imagined possible in the days leading up to the birthday. Ethan found himself thinking constantly about Lily and her impact. He reflected on the morning at the diner, the laughter, the stories, and the simple kindness that had broken through the walls Noah had built around himself. Ethan began to recognize the patterns of his own life: constant work, endless schedules, and the pursuit of wealth had often blinded him to the most meaningful parts of existence. human connection, compassion, and love. When the day arrived, Ethan prepared a simple but heartfelt celebration. He chose a quiet corner of their mansion, away from the pressures of public attention. There were balloons, Noah's favorite toys, and a few friends and family members, but nothing extravagant. It was a space designed for comfort, warmth, and genuine emotion. When Lily arrived, she stepped into a world far removed from the diner, yet she did not falter. She remained herself, calm, kind, and focused entirely on Noah. Noah's eyes lit up the moment he saw her. "Miss Lily," he shouted, rushing toward her. She bent down to meet him at eye level, lifting his hands gently and spinning him slightly, laughing along with him. The joy in that room was tangible. Ethan watched from a distance, feeling a mix of awe and relief. For the first time, he saw Noah interacting freely, unburdened by fear or hesitation. The bond they shared in the diner had blossomed, growing stronger in just a few days. Throughout the party, Lily engaged Noah in games, stories, and gentle guidance. She remained attentive, noticing his moods, what made him laugh, and what made him anxious. She encouraged his imagination, applauded his efforts, and provided a sense of security that allowed him to explore freely. Ethan observed quietly, noticing how naturally she fit into their lives despite the vast differences in their backgrounds. Her influence was immediate and profound. She had a rare ability to connect with a child on an emotional level, something that no wealth, schedule, or planning could replicate. Ethan approached her at one point, quietly, to express his gratitude again. "You've done more for him in a few moments than I've been able to do in years," he said softly. Lily smiled, shaking her head. "I just did what anyone who cared would do," she replied. But Ethan knew better. Her care was exceptional. Her patience was extraordinary. Her genuine love for helping children was rare, and it had transformed Noah's morning, his birthday, and the family's perspective on what was truly important in life. As the party continued, Ethan realized that this was more than just a birthday celebration. It was a turning point, a moment when the walls around his family began to soften. When the small gestures of one young woman brought warmth and joy that could not be measured in dollars, Lily's presence reminded him that true wealth was not in money or possessions, but in the ability to love, care, and nurture. Noah clung to Lily's hand as the party wound down, reluctant to let go. She crouched to his level, whispering, "You did amazing today, Noah. I'm so proud of you." The boy's smile was radiant, and Ethan felt a surge of gratitude he had never experienced before. For the first time, he understood that happiness was built through trust, connection, and compassion, and that sometimes the smallest acts could create the greatest impact. After the party, Ethan pulled Lily aside. "I know this may be sudden," he said, "but I would like you to be a part of Noah's life regularly, if you're willing. Not just for birthdays or visits, but as someone who can help him grow, learn, and feel loved." Lily's eyes widened, and she felt a rush of emotion. She had never imagined that her small acts of kindness could lead to such a profound opportunity. She hesitated briefly, thinking of her responsibilities and her life, but then looked at Noah's joyful face and nodded. I'd like that," she said softly. Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. He knew that he was not just offering her a role in their lives. He was opening a door for Noah to experience the emotional growth and happiness he deserved. Lily, in turn, felt a quiet sense of purpose and fulfillment. She realized that the simple kindness she had shown in a diner had blossomed into something life-changing for both the child she cared for and herself. In that quiet, intimate moment, a new chapter began for the Parker family. The birthday party had been more than a celebration. It had been a bridge between worlds, a connection between hearts, and a moment when lives shifted forever. Ethan understood that while he had wealth, influence, and power, it was Lily's compassion that had truly transformed their lives. For Noah, the experience solidified a bond built on trust, care, and joy. He laughed freely, played boldly, and explored the world with a sense of safety and confidence he had not known before. For Lily, it was a reminder that genuine kindness never goes unnoticed, and that the smallest gestures can ripple outward in ways that change lives. For Ethan, it was a lesson in humility, gratitude, and the true meaning of wealth, the ability to nurture, care, and embrace human connection. By the end of the day, it was clear that life would never be the same for any of them. Lily had become more than a visitor or a friend. She had become a catalyst for change, bringing hope, happiness, and love into a life that had been carefully structured but emotionally incomplete. The Parker family had discovered that sometimes the most extraordinary transformations happen through the simplest acts: a smile, kind word, and the willingness to see another person with genuine care. After Noah's birthday, the Parker household felt lighter than it had in years. The laughter of a child, free and unburdened, had brought warmth to corners of the home that had long felt cold and empty. Ethan Parker, who had spent a lifetime building empires and accumulating wealth, found himself realizing that no money could replace genuine human connection. The joy he had seen in Noah's eyes, sparked by Lily's simple acts of kindness, had awakened something in him he didn't know was missing: a true appreciation for emotional connection, compassion, and love. A few days after the birthday party, Ethan approached Lily with a proposal. He had thought about it for several nights, weighing the practicalities and the impact it could have on both their lives. He wanted her to become a consistent presence in Noah's life, not just as a babysitter, not just as a temporary helper, but as someone who could guide, nurture, and provide emotional support. "Lily," he began, his voice steady but full of sincerity, "I want you to be part of Noah's life regularly. Not because I can pay you, but because you've shown him what kindness feels like. You've brought him joy, and I think he needs that. And you." Lily was taken aback. She had never imagined that a few mornings at a diner could lead to such an opportunity. Her life had been a series of struggles, working long hours to care for her sick mother, barely keeping up with bills and trying to make ends meet. She had never expected that her natural kindness, her ability to see a child's heart, could open doors in ways that wealth could not. I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I just did what felt right. I never thought it could matter this much." Ethan smiled softly, understanding her hesitation. "I'm not asking for anything extravagant," he said. "I just want Noah to have someone who can care for him in a way I often can't. Someone who can be there when I'm busy, and someone he can trust completely. I know it's a big ask, but I believe you're the right person for it." After thinking it over, Lily agreed. She would move into a small guest house on the Parker property, allowing her to be nearby whenever Noah needed her. Ethan arranged for her to continue her nursing studies, providing the flexibility and support she would need to grow personally while also caring for Noah. It was a life-changing decision, not just for Noah, but for Lily herself. For the first time, she felt truly valued, respected, and empowered to make a difference. From her first day in the Parker home, Lily's impact was immediate. Noah responded to her presence with excitement, trust, and affection. He had already felt comfortable with her at the diner, but now, being in a familiar home environment, his confidence grew. He explored his surroundings with curiosity, played with his toys, and even tried small activities he had been hesitant to attempt before. Lily encouraged every small effort, clapping, praising, and guiding him patiently. Each day, Noah grew more confident, happier, and more engaged with the world around him. Ethan watched these changes with a mixture of pride and humility. He realized that his son's happiness was not something he could schedule, control, or buy. It came from love, attention, and genuine care, things Lily provided in abundance. He began to trust her guidance, often stepping back to let her handle situations with Noah, knowing that her instincts and compassion were exactly what his son needed. The presence of someone so warm and selfless in their lives brought a sense of balance and stability that had been missing for too long. Over time, Lily became more than just a caregiver. She became a mentor, a friend, and a confidant for Noah. She taught him small lessons about patience, kindness, and curiosity. She encouraged him to ask questions, explore new ideas, and express his feelings openly. She celebrated every achievement, no matter how minor, and provided comfort during moments of frustration or sadness. Noah's confidence blossomed, and his relationship with his father deepened as well. Ethan saw his son smiling, laughing, and engaging with the world in ways he had never imagined possible. The changes were not limited to Noah. Ethan himself transformed. As he observed Lily's influence, he began to reevaluate his priorities, realizing that wealth and power were meaningless without genuine human connection. He spent more time with Noah, engaging in play, conversation, and shared experiences rather than focusing solely on business. He learned to appreciate the small, ordinary moments that carried extraordinary meaning: a laugh, a smile, a gentle touch. Lily's presence had created a ripple effect, reshaping the family's emotional landscape and teaching Ethan lessons about patience, empathy, and the importance of nurturing love. For Lily, the experience was equally transformative. She had entered the Parker world as a waitress, unaware of her impact on Noah and the family. Now she found herself in a position where her skills, kindness, and intuition were valued and recognized. She continued her studies, supported by the resources Ethan provided, and felt a sense of purpose she had never known. Her life, once consumed by struggle and hardship, had opened up to new possibilities, stability, and respect. She had the freedom to grow personally while making a profound difference in the life of a child she cared deeply about. As months passed, the bond between Noah, Lily, and Ethan grew stronger. Noah thrived, his confidence increasing daily. He began to engage more with other children, participate in activities, and express himself openly. He faced his challenges with courage, guided by Lily's patient encouragement and supported by his father's love. Ethan, in turn, discovered a joy and fulfillment that his wealth could never provide. Watching his son flourish, seeing the transformation in his happiness, and recognizing the irreplaceable value of human connection brought him a sense of peace and contentment he had long thought impossible. The transformation in their lives did not go unnoticed by friends and family. Visitors to the Parker home observed the warmth, laughter, and genuine interactions that had become the new normal. They were struck by how a small act of kindness, a waitress comforting a child at a diner, had created such far-reaching effects. It was a quiet, profound reminder that sometimes the simplest gestures could lead to the most extraordinary changes. Ethan often reflected on the lesson he had learned. His wealth, influence, and power had been impressive on paper, but they had done little to address the emotional needs of his family. Lily had shown him that true value lies not in money, but in love, care, and the willingness to invest time and attention in others. She had become an irreplaceable part of their lives, not because of her status or background, but because of her heart and her ability to nurture joy, trust, and confidence in a child. Noah's growth and happiness became the greatest reward for everyone involved. He laughed freely, explored boldly, and faced each day with courage and curiosity. Lily's guidance allowed him to discover his strengths, embrace challenges, and build meaningful relationships. Ethan found fulfillment not in business achievements or material success, but in witnessing the positive changes in his son and the happiness that had returned to their household. The story of Ethan, Noah, and Lily became an enduring reminder that sometimes life-changing moments begin with small, unassuming acts of kindness. A waitress had reached out to a child with empathy and patience, and in doing so, she had transformed not just his life, but the lives of everyone around him. The Parker family learned that love, compassion, and genuine human connection could never be bought. They had to be given, nurtured, and cherished. Years later, Ethan often reflected on that rainy morning at the diner. The moment when Lily had first knelt beside Noah and shown him the simple magic of kindness. He realized that no fortune, no empire, and no influence could ever replace the power of a human heart reaching out to another. Lily had changed their lives forever, reminding them that the true wealth in life is measured not by what we own, but by the joy, love, and trust we bring into the lives of those we care about. Noah's smile remained the heart of their home, a symbol of resilience, growth, and the extraordinary power of kindness. Lily continued to play a vital role in his life, guiding him, nurturing him, helping him navigate the world with confidence and joy. Ethan, once a man defined by wealth and ambition, had discovered the profound truth that family, love, and connection were the most valuable treasures of all. In the end, the small waitress who had comforted a lonely child had become a life-changing presence, not just for Noah, but for Ethan and for herself. Their lives intertwined, forever marked by the simple act of care that had sparked a journey of growth, love, and transformation. It was a story of hope, proof that genuine kindness has the power to change lives in ways that wealth, influence, or planning never could.